of like, I've been to these places. My thesis is travel is a portal to transformation if you allow it to be. You can live like a traveler in your everyday life. You don't have to go anywhere, but you do have to be present. You do have to jump into your own sense of adventure, and you have to pay attention. Curiosity and adventurous, all these things you can go at home. There's probably infinite places that you can explore just in your hometown.
One, two, three, four.
Welcome to Unlock Black Journeys, the podcast, where we archive the Black experience across all 50 states. I'm your host, Dr. Franny. On this podcast, we explore Black travel, celebrate Black businesses, unpack the Black experience, and highlight our Black communities. Season 1 is Black in Motion, how we experience place. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we're unlocking what it means to travel 50 states and 50 countries as a Black woman and the surprising truths learned along the way. Our guest is Ebony Walden, an author, filmmaker, consultant, and speaker based in Richmond, Virginia. She is the founder of Ebony Walden Consulting, a racial equity-focused firm, and the creator of Black Beyond Borders, a documentary series and podcast exploring culture, creativity, connection, and cuisine across the African diaspora. If you're curious about what it means to travel while Black, from navigating safety to finding true belonging, or you're just looking for suggestions on the best destinations for Black people to feel a sense of comfort and community from someone who has traveled to every state and 50 countries, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Hey, Ebony, I am so excited to have you on here as someone who has a bucket list goal to visit all 50 states and 50 countries. Transparently, it's been really hard to find fellow Black women online who have similar goals, especially of traveling to all 50 states, let alone someone who's actually documenting the journey. And if they are documenting it, not documenting it just on Instagram.
Girl, I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm like, I'm still like not on the Instagram. It's like my least favorite way to engage. But
I have mixed reviews, but I think it's one of those things when you document it in other places besides the Instagram, the TikTok, it becomes a more permanent form of documentation, which I think is critical, especially for representation for Black women traveling around the country. So before we get into your 50-state journey, can you start grounding us for our listeners? Take us through your story of place and movement in terms of where did you grow up and where are you based now and how did you arrive here?
Yeah, sure. And thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I actually may be the only Black woman I've ever met that have been to all 50 states. I've met some white folks.
That part.
My name, people are like, what? My name is Ebony Walden. I actually grew up in Jamaica, Queens, in New York, in Hempstead, Long Island. My mom's from Queens. My dad's from Long Island.
New York.
And I live in Richmond, Virginia. Yes, I will be going up there soon. My whole family's still there, but I live in Richmond, Virginia now, and it's been a meandering down south. So I went to school, undergrad in DC at Georgetown. I went to grad school at UVA in Charlottesville. And so, that kind of had like sticky feet, I guess. I went there for 1 year and I ended up staying 11. And then during that time there, I actually went on my first trip around the world in 2010. I got a hunch from a friend, like literally called me up and they were like, hey, I want to go on a trip around the world. And this is somebody I had only met once before. So it felt like a divine prompting. And by the time we got off the phone, I was like, I'm about to turn 30. It's a really interesting time in my life. I've been in my job about 3 or 4 years, a good time to transition. And I got some money saved. So all those things were true for me too. And so I went on a 17 country, 8-month trip around the world, volunteering, sightseeing, backpacking, writing poetry. I was doing an open mic at the time, a poet and spoken word artist. So I did this where I'm from home with people I met around the world. And what really got me into the 50 states was that journey because I wore my ass out, right? So after that 8 months, I literally don't think I traveled internationally for 2 or 3 years
Oh,
because I
wow.
was like, I don't want to see another plane because my tickets for that cost like $8,000. And I don't even know how many buses, planes, trains I had been on. So I was like, yeah, I'm in rest mode. And because of that, I was like, wow, I've literally been on 6 of the 7 continents in the world, but I've not fully explored both my state or
Mm.
the United States of America. So I started going on what nervous system could handle these excursions throughout Virginia first, right? So I'd be like, okay, what's a little small town? Let me go to the Natural Bridge, or let me go to Luray Cavern. Let me go to those things. And I love wineries and breweries and distilleries. And so I started just being like, okay, this weekend we're going to go to this winery 2 hours away and we're going to see what's there. We're going to go to Danville and do this rail to trail thing. And then I want to see the rest of the US because this country is so big and so diverse, mode as much anymore. So I was like, okay, let me do 50 states. And I think by the time when I started, just by virtue of work and life and traveling growing up, maybe I was at 20 something, 27, 28. Cause like living in the Northeast, those states are close and I had done a bit of travel. I'd lived in Seattle. Of course, I went to Oregon and those kind of states. All the states of Northeast down to the upper South and the kind of West Coast. But I had all the states in between and I just started going on a journey. And once I set a goal, I'm like, okay, well, we're just gonna kind of get them off. So if there was a conference I was going to at work, then I would tack on a neighboring state or two, or if there was somewhere I was going for myself, I would do these loops, right? So I would do these like 3 or 4 state loops. Like I would fly into Arizona and then go drive up to the Grand Canyon, but you you get Wyoming, you get a bunch of different states. So I would do these regional things and I was supposed to do full 50 by 40, but then the pandemic happened. And I think I finished when I was 42. So about 4 years ago.
Yes, yes. And as you said before, I don't think I've actually met a Black woman in person or virtually who has, besides like a Nabango, who has been to, every
Well,
country
she's
of the
been to every
world.
country in the world. Yeah.
And so it makes sense. But it's interesting that you mentioned, especially for someone who's so well traveled, also internationally, of like very often we forget to explore our own backyard and understand our own
Exactly.
country and the importance of that. So I'm actually curious, what did you end up uncovering as you explored our own backyard, the United States?
So one of my philosophies is I move through the world like a traveler, like a tourist. Like even the place that I live in Richmond, I'm always going to new restaurants. I've been to all the museums. If there's something new or interesting or historic, I'm going to that place because every place has a story to uncover. And you would think like the Midwestern states are these boring places, but those were the most interesting places to me because I had a story. I was telling my friend, I'm like, yeah, I'm like in Des Moines and they have wonderful murals there. And then I'm in, I think it was Omaha, Nebraska. They have this one, it's like a sculpture outdoor public exhibit of like going west. It is amazing. And they're bigger than life size, right? And so you have the tragedy of all these folks going west, the diseases and things that come along with that. And I'm an urban planner, so I'm always looking for outdoor features. So is there a water feature? Is there some kind of historic feature? Is there public space outside that I can go to? So wonderful parks, wonderful public infrastructure around rivers, storytelling of how this place came to be. And food is always thing. Just go on a food tour. But I don't know. It was somewhere in the Midwest. I think it was either Des Moines or Omaha, where the Reuben sandwich was invented. Supposedly, there's a fight about where the Reuben sandwich. And I was like, I don't even like Reuben sandwiches, but I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna eat this Reuben sandwich because this is the thing that I need to eat here, right? And I'm like, my last state was actually Oklahoma, and I was like, of course I'm going to Tulsa. Of course I'm going to
Yeah.
Greenwood. They have a new Greenwood museum there. The churches, the street, the historic museums, the places that you're supposed to eat. So I land. I'm like, where's the place to eat here? Where is the place to drink? There's always wineries, distilleries, and breweries that are local. So I like to taste. And then like, what's the local thing to eat here? What are the stories, particularly of Black people, if they are any, or marginalized groups that I want to hear and see and uncover? And what are the public spaces that I want to go see? I think it was Sioux Falls. And there was this wonderful public kind of trail that they did around the river because there was a lot of hydropower that they were using 1800s to really power the city and the economy. So there's all these ruins of historic buildings that were like a flour mill, and you can see the kind of ruins of the hydraulics. But anyway, this is all around the water feature in the river, right? And even the ruins of things, and you can, those things where you're like, this is what the skyline looked like, and you can see it fit into there now. I love things like that. There is no place that I went that I was like, there's not something here that I'm interested. I love to eat. I love to drink. I love history. I love walking and I love eating. So I went to Ben and Jerry's in Vermont. I ate a lobster roll in Maine. I went to the White Mountains and the bridges in New Hampshire that are indicative of that place, right? Of course, the Grand Canyon and all that side. In Salt Lake City, learned about the Mormons. It's just so much. I like my own company, so it's never a problem. And I like outdoor water features. So it doesn't take very much. You can be like, oh, look at this water, right? There's one place that over the water, they build this bridge. Basically, 1 foot is in one state and 1 foot is in the other state
That's
when
cool.
you're standing on this. Right. So you can make anything cool if you are open to it. And there's food tours everywhere or free walking tours. So I think I just say, what is the gem of this place? Right. And I learned that because I've lived in DC, I've lived in Seattle, I've lived in New York, of course, and I've lived in Charlottesville, which is like 40,000 people, very white. And then in Richmond, those places are very different. And if I tried to make them be the other place, I would miss the beauty of that place.
Ooh,
and particularly living in Charlottesville made me say, this is like a small, liberal white town and more of a conservative county area, but it's beautiful, right? I'm from New York, so outdoor things weren't my thing, but I learned to hike, right? I learned about wine there because there are wineries there. It has one of the last, from an urban planning perspective, pedestrian walls in their downtown, right? The first one was in Kalamazoo, and I think there's only a couple left where it's 8 blocks of just bricked in and you can walk on there. Of course, there's a history of Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, right? There's also the Black history that is there in Charlottesville, enslavement and post-enslavement, right? Those stories. That's infinitely interesting to me. So living in a small town really helped me realize there's a gem in every place. I just have to look for it and not try to compare it to something else. Like, I'm not going to Charlottesville to try to get in New York. Now, what's the point of that?
And it's funny you named that because I will admit when I was in the beginning of my travel days, being from Brooklyn, New York, everywhere I went, I was like, this does not compare to New York.
New Yorkers are the worst. They're the worst. You can't take them anywhere.
Yeah, no, I remember going to Philly, like, this is not a real city. But then when you start traveling more of the country, you're like, oh, wait, I need to redefine what a city means. And you cannot compare one to another at all.
Right. Or you just get stuck in comparison mode and you'll miss the gem of this place, right? So I don't eat Reuben sandwiches, but I can say I ate a Reuben sandwich at the place it was originated, right? I stood at the bank in Cincinnati. I went to the Underground Railroad Museum and stood at the banks of the Ohio River and imagined so many of my ancestors having to cross that. You can create a moment, right? I go on mural tours. Most cities have beautiful murals. You can find them. So I went on a mural tour in Philly, or I create my own mural tours. So I am the master of creating moments out of what is there, not about complaining about what is not there.
I love that. This sort of gets into a question I have for you. Since you uplifted smaller places like Des Moines and Charlottesville, what is a misconception that you see Black travelers especially have about U.S. travel that you want to challenge?
So, you know what's funny? People are a little like, you don't be scared. And so, cause I'm be out in Virginia in some of these podunk places. And I'm always like, I've never had a problem. That doesn't mean that there aren't problems, but about safety, right? And going to these like smaller, not majority Black places. So here's a theory that I always follow. Wherever I am, I belong. So I don't care if it's all white people there. Now there's a Black person here. I just walked in. Thank you very much. Right. So I don't really counter this like, because I went to a PWI undergrad, whether I'm in China or Thailand or someplace where there's not a lot of Black people are, like just get used to the idea of being the only Black person in the room. And that is okay. But that can't be every place. Like when I went to, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, I'm doing all the Black stuff. I'm eating at the best fried chicken place they have there, which actually wasn't very good, but that is a different story, right? I'm eating at the Black places. I'm going to the Black museums. Like I'm doing, as I say, Black ass shit, right? But there are places that don't have a lot of, and I'm always looking for the Black. There's always Black people somewhere.
You and me both, girl.
Right? So I'm always like, there gotta be 2 Black people here. What they doing? But I think that like the idea of the small white places necessarily being unsafe. Right? And so I'm a woman traveling by myself. So I'm always cautious. I pay attention to who's in front of me, who's behind. I don't let people walk behind me, right? I'm not roaming around at dark places at night by myself, right? And if it's too many Confederate flags, and I'll say this is going to be a drive-by tour, right? I don't necessarily put myself in those type of situations, but the safety of going to some of these smaller white places. And it's so funny, because I'll be out in like Northern Neck or whatever in Virginia and these places. My friend was like, "You're not like ever afraid? I said, nothing has ever popped off. Those are the places where actually people are super nice. It was in Norfolk, Virginia, which is in Tidewater, and it's hella Black people over there, that I went to a hotel and the guy wouldn't check me in. I had no idea why. He was just like, yeah, we're not checking you in. You have an attitude. Norfolk. This is like the Tidewater area is one of the Blackest places in Virginia.
So you can't assume just because it is a Black area that you're safe.
And that was the place. And I done been to some podunk towns where I'm like, girl, I didn't seen a Black person in miles. And I've been treated fine, nice, super hospitable, and it's one of the places that have some of the most Black people in Virginia where I was discriminated against, right? So I try to be aware, I try to be safe and cautious, but I try to leave my preconceived notions about a place and just be open to that place. So that's my thing, is like wherever I go, I belong. It's fine if I'm the only Black person. I've just embraced it. I'm a trailblazer. And because I've traveled somewhere, it doesn't matter. I can connect with anybody.
Love that.
Because I know how to ask questions, and I know how to ask people questions about their story. Like, and of course, I'm the Black person in there, so they're like, "Well, you're clearly not from me."
Oh, they know immediately.
I'm the master of holiday conversations. I love it. I'll be like, "Well, get into everybody. Well, what are you doing here? Well, where are you from? What kind of work did you doing?"
They love the small talk.
What you drinking? Somebody will buy me a drink, because I'm always going to wineries, distilleries, and breweries, right? And those places just have more of the abundance, unless it's a Black one, have the abundance of white folks, right? And so I think I know myself. I know where I go, I belong. I know how to generally keep myself safe, barred some some random circumstances that could happen anywhere, really. As we've seen, of like some random ish could be happening in your hometown right around the block from you, as much as you might get dragged out of your car by a person, right? And so I think that it's not going to necessarily be unsafe. I don't think you're going to necessarily you're going to be bored if you're bored.
I'm not the bored. Place that's the problem.
Even if I'm going to a place by myself, I bring a book, I bring a journal, an audio book. I'll be like, oh, they'll be like, you by yourself? Yes. Give me the prime seat right here. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. I'll have a book. I have an audio book. or I may want to talk to people. Or there's like food tours you go on, you meet people. Tours are great. Food tours, historic tours, or if you like cocktails, there's always cocktail tours and pub crawls. There's ways to like meet and engage people too and have a good time. I have not been to a place, and I've probably between the 50 states and the 50 countries been to close to 200 cities. I have not been to a place that I couldn't find something interesting there. That doesn't mean that I want to stay there long. That doesn't mean it was the best place on my list. And it doesn't leave. I need to live there. I'm visiting, right? But there wasn't a place. So that notion that it's boring, there's not anything to do, that you're not going to be accepted as a Black person. I let the place show me that, if that's the case. I don't come in with that preconceived notion.
If you are enjoying learning about the Black experience, explore more on my blog. I share traveling while Black reflections from Vermont to Iceland and beyond, including vibes, safety, and comfort based on my Support Black scorecard. Visit frannythetraveler.com for more. Since you're talking a lot about place and what they have to offer, I'm curious if you could share a place where you felt a very strong sense of belonging.
Oh, girl, I'm in love with Senegal. So I've been to Senegal 3 times, all the Black places, but I've been to Senegal 3 times. So a friend of mine from Richmond moved to Senegal in 2020, and she loves inviting people there. She moved her family there. She has a coffee shop there. It's called the Original Drip. So if you're in Senegal, go to the Original Drip. You'll find some nice expat community there. But she invited me in 2022. I went for 2 weeks, and you know how somebody just has put down roots in a place and then you can see the place through their eyes. So she's built a community. She has a staff, everything from going to the tourist sites to meeting and talking to locals to going out on the town and having drinks to having my clothes made to visiting the door of no return. And so I've been twice. The season 1 of my documentary series, Black Beyond Borders, takes place in Senegal because I love it so much. So I went back in 2024 for 6 weeks, and I went to the Biennale, Senegal's Contemporary African Art Festival that happens every 2 years. It's a month-long extravaganza of Black art and dynamism from all over the continent and all over the diaspora. So if you're listening to this, you haven't been to Senegal or you want to go back, check out the Biennale. It's happening in November and December of this year. So she has a coffee shop. She knows the people at restaurants. It's like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood in her community. And it really, they'll be like, oh, like I'll be walking down the street. Literally, I got back there. So I spent 6 weeks in 2024 and I spent a month, December, the end of last year. So I got back and I have yellow glasses. So people in the side of my head is shaved. So I'm not like the most inconspicuous person. But when I got back there, even the people that sell things, so the woman, Mama Coco, that sells peanuts was like, you're back, my friend. The person that sold fruit on the corner was like, Ebony. But the cab driver was like, you came back? You didn't call me to come pick you up? And I was like, no, her driver came pick me up. So within a day of me being there, I'm connecting. I go to the Copacabana Surf Village, which is a restaurant not that far from our house. I know the owner. His name is Babacar. He comes, gives me a big hug and was like, oh, you're back. So, she's built a community that now that when I go and step in it, it's part of my community. And that has been really, really rich. It feels like a second home to me now. I feel the same way about Colombia. I went to spend a month in Medellin. That'll be season 2 of my documentary series, Black Beyond Borders. And that's just basically a series where I'm taking my camera, my vlogging camera and my phone and say, what is it like to be Black in this place? I'm going to be Black in this place. I'm going to explore Black history, food, culture, and have a good Black ass time and take people with me. So I went to Colombia last year to mostly stay in Medellin and go to something called the Festival of the Diaspora. So that was great because I had been to Cartagena. I also went to Cali. That's also a huge Afro-descendant population. Cartagena is too. Medellin, not so much, but it's a vibe. And everywhere I go, there's Black women everywhere now, just traveling, transforming, opening businesses and connecting and being supportive, whether it's local folks or expats. And so those are the 2 places that I've gone to most recently. that just feel I could step into a community. And that's the difference, right? If they're already kind of couple, it doesn't have to be a lot trailblazers of people that are opening businesses, thinking about more expansive life and experiences in a easefulness. And wherever Black women are, we get together, we kiki, we support one another. So after that festival, I found me 4 or 5 Black women and we just hung out. We did karaoke, we did dinner, you know what I mean? And
Love
it
that.
became a vibe. But so those are 2 places abroad. I don't know
Yes, I was
about
curious if there's a place in the
the
US that
US. That's
has
what I was thinking.
sparked that. And why I asked is because I think we're in a period of time where I'm noticing people are nervous to travel internationally because of the political climate we're in. Somehow US travel has become trending again. And so I'm curious, are there places in the US that also come to mind where you feel that sense of community and vibes that you're talking about?
So New York is always home for me, so that's it. I think Richmond is a vibe. So if you want to come here, I think that to enjoy Richmond, you find a Black person. Like I have a whole Black mural tour that I give, right? We can go to Black restaurants. One of the booziest neighborhoods in our city is called Scott's Edition. So if you like beer, if you like distilleries, there's a couple wineries around there. We just opened the Shaco Institute, which is, really reckoning with Virginia's role in just the construction of race, right? So this is where Bacon's Rebellion happened, where this stratification, this like divide and conquer spirit came from. And so we just opened a museum that is basically in the area where the most notorious slave jails were. Case in point. So you probably remember the guy from 12 Years a Slave, right? That was actually based on a story. He was held in this Virginia jail, right? And so I think that story, we had a Black Wall Street here. So I'm clearly just repping Richmond right now. but
Go
but
ahead,
places
claim it.
I'm repping Richmond. So it's a very rich history. It's a growing city. We still are a majority Black city. Now, if you want to go to a club, this ain't the city for you. But if you want to go to a museum, if you want to walk on the river, if you want to have some pretty decent Black food, if you want to get the history of a Black Wall Street, we have Maggie Walker, luminary, first Black woman bank president in the US. She had a 5,000 square foot house in the 1910s with an elevator. Yeah. And a store, right? So there's a rich history here that I love that people kind of pass over on their way to 95. But the cities I love. So you probably read the article I did in Business Insider on New Orleans. So I think New Orleans is a city like no other. It's its own thing, its own spirit, its own vibe. And I just love the vibe of New Orleans. You're going to eat good. You're going to listen to some really good music. And depending on, there's going to be some revelry going on. You know what I mean? And then, just walking the levees, walking the Ninth Ward, you also see how far we have to go. But I love cities that really are places where Black people landed and we shaped the culture. We made a gumbo out of the thing, right? So I think New Orleans, the architecture there, right? So there is Spanish and African influence and French influence, both in the architecture and the food and in the language. And it's not a huge city. So I think it doesn't feel overwhelming. I'm an urban planner, so it's walkable. I love the architecture. I love that you can go someplace and like noon and have a happy hour in the French Quarter. Right. And it's really interesting. You can go to Congo Square, I think it is, and really feel the vibe of this is where the African ancestors were coming and are singing and dancing and exchanging goods. So there is that history. I think it's the Whitney Plantation, which is right outside of New Orleans. If you want to
Yes, that's such a good one.
yes, if you want to engage that history. So I think that you would get a dynamic experience. I feel the same way about Charleston to some extent. Like a lot of people don't know about Geechee Gullah culture. So before I did my Black Beyond Borders internationally, probably the last 5 to 7 years, I've mostly been going to Black places in the US too. So going to Charleston was huge because that's a foundational Black place. The Geechee Gullah culture, which is basically people that live on the sea islands. And people don't know that Geechee Gullah culture goes from North Carolina all the way down to Florida. It's a corridor where folks were basically on islands, so they were a little bit isolated. So they had kept some of their Africanness in the spirituality, but they also have a distinct accent. Their accent, because of the Creole nature, they kind of sound West Indian to me. It's this wonderful vernacular dialect that is beautiful. So you can see that, and you can see like how we influence rice, which was like, it was like Caroline and gold rice was like cotton. And right outside of Charleston was some of the biggest millionaires in the country during that time. And if you know anything about rice, rice has to be cultivated. It needs to be in terraces, in terraces. And so enslaved Africans, they were also cultivating rice in the west coast of Africa. So they brought that technology here, irrigation, clearing. And so I just love learning that particular history of the place, right? It's beautiful around there. There's water around there. I think Southern history is complicated and really
Yes.
interesting. And my history intersects with there too. So I did my ancestry, and it was like your ancestors came through Charleston in the 1760s. That tracks because 3 out of my 4 grandparents are from the Carolinas. You know, they came up to New York as part of the Great Migration. So, you know, that makes complete sense. And in a sense, like, I have a very Black American story, even though, you know, both of my parents were born in New York. My grandparents, my grandmother was picking cotton and tobacco, right? One of them in South Carolina. And it's definitely like they picked up, their brothers and sisters picked up. They stopped off in Brooklyn and kept in Queens and then moved on to Long Island. It is the like quintessential Black American story. So those are 2 places. I love Charleston. I love New Orleans, and
that makes sense. And I know you share about Charleston in your Substack, Beyond Borders. I wanted you to talk a little bit more about your platforms, Black Beyond Borders and Beyond Borders, and how are you using that to tell your story and why now specifically?
Yeah, I got a book to promote and sell. Sorry.
Ain't no shade. It's okay. But I think it goes beyond that, though, because I know you mentioned on the platform you're not traveling anymore. So I'm just curious if you could also elaborate a little more about that and why this shift.
I'm old and tired. So your initial question was my platform. So
yes.
So remember, I really started this extensive traveling in 2010. So that's about 16 years ago. I had traveled, you know, just like I went to Mexico, I went to Canada, you know, I went to Paris, you know, in college. So I went on that around the world trip. It absolutely shook me up, not in a bad way, but just blew my mind. And I was so open. So it actually took me a while to recover from that amount of traveling, that amount fast. I just had taken so much in. My whole body needed a way to settle. And it had shifted and transformed so much in me and uncovered so much in me that I needed to work on, work in, and work through. Amen. So then I started writing my book about my travels. I had a blog during my travels. So I was writing poetry. So writing was already a part of what I did during that time. I think I probably had a blog starting 2007. And you know, the iteration of blogs over the course of mediums have changed over time, right? Remember MySpace pages? Help them,
Oh,
Jesus.
man. When you was actually putting in codes?
Yes. So like the iteration, WordPress blogs, I had so many blogs. So I was always writing. In 2014, I started writing my memoir that's getting published now, but I was actually really writing it for myself. I started in 2014. I finished at the end of 2017. And I wrote it for myself because I'm like, oh, this was a profound experience for me. I'm a spiritual person. And I was like, I need to go back and really uncover place by place, person by person. What are the gems this trip gave me? And what are the ways in which I was transformed? So it's for myself, right? And then I finished it. I bound it up. I was the only person. I took these 2 memoir in a year classes and finished it. I think I might have been the only person in my class that finished their full memoir. Because if I'm going to do something, I do something. It's not a game. Put it on my shelf. And by that time, I was starting a business. So I was starting a business, training and facilitating conversations around community, around development, around housing. When I'm of the mind, I can't be duality when there's a big thing. Like, I got to go all in. And I was like, I'm not trying to sell this book. Who's going to publish an unknown author. I'm going to spend 3 years doing query. I said, I don't have time for that. I need to build a business that can make money, right? So it's 2017 to the pandemic. I'm doing my business. And then probably a little bit before the pandemic, maybe 2019, I started traveling internationally more extensively because my business was doing well. And I was like, okay, we can be flued out here. Flew your damn self out. So I'm starting to travel more internationally. And then in 2024, I get the idea for Black Beyond Borders. Funny thing is that Black Beyond Borders started as a book idea. I actually, the other day, found the book proposal I was going to do. So anyway, the point being, I was starting in 2024, my life became back full circle to traveling more, right? In the past 3 years, I think I've been to like 14 or 15 countries. I can't even count. So my life became traveling. We have phones now and we have Instagram now. So I was cataloging my travels just on those spaces. Those places felt a little bit confining. And then, so I just wanted to return back to my writing as a way to process all that I had experienced, right? And then after I spent from the end of 2024 to the end of 2025, I don't know how many countries I went to, maybe 10, but I spent 5 months out of that year remote working across 4 or 5 countries, a month each. And so, girl, that wore me out. And not in a bad way, but the way I travel is immersive. I've taken in so much. And so I think I had started my Substack last year just to process. I'm a big processor, big journaler. Then I knew my book was coming out. And so I was like, I actually have to create a platform for myself where I'm seen as somebody you want to follow around their travels. So I think I started Beyond Borders in June of last year. So a little bit under a year. And Black Beyond Borders was 2 years ago. And that was just wonderful because it gives me new mediums to tell my story, right? There's a kind of person that's going to read a book. Somebody might watch a TikTok or a clip, right? Somebody might watch a longer piece like my documentary. And somebody might watch, I'm doing these diasporic dispatches. So the documentary takes a lot of time and money to produce and edit. If I just sat down and talked about a place I've been for 10 minutes, and include some photos, I can do that myself. And it won't be this huge holdup. So those are the things I'm trying to give space for all that I have experienced and share it with the world. Beyond Borders really is about travel and transformation, right? I've been to these places. My thesis is travel is a portal to transformation if you allow it to be. You can live like a traveler in your everyday life. You don't have to go anywhere, but you do have to be present. You do have to jump into your own sense of adventure and you have to pay attention. Curiosity and adventurous, all these things you can go at home. There's probably infinite places that you can explore just in your hometown, right? I grew up in New York. And when I visit my family now, my mom lives 15 minutes from Jones Beach. And I'm like, why wasn't I at the beach more growing up? What was I doing? You know what I mean? Now, every time I go there, I'm like, I'll see y'all later. I'm going to the beach because it's 15 minutes. Why am I not going to the beach more often? You know what I mean? And then Jones Beach is long. So you could just go to all different parts of the beach and they have these little towns. So that's what I mean. It's like adventure. There are people that live in Brooklyn, haven't gone to Coney Island, live in Queens, haven't gone to, Far Rockaways or the Rockaway beaches, right? Or I haven't gone to the Hamptons. Me and my sister went to the Hamptons. So that's really about how can travel teach you something about life. Black Beyond Borders is highlighting and narrative change around what it means to be Black globally and hopefully showing people different images of the beauty and dynamism that is Blackness, because we have been in this white supremacist colonial project for the past couple of years that says Blackness is deficient, and disparity. And think about the prevailing images I had growing up. So I'm 45. It was, okay, if it was Black, it was on TV most of the time, not all the time, but there was a lot of drugs, guns, and violence. Africa, it was Save the Children campaigns. We need to, right? You remember
a lot of that.
Yes,
I remember.
the flies. I'm like, please bat that fly. But like that's what we were seeing, like of Africa. And so I want to say I have been to these places. I have seen that they tried to bury us and didn't know we were seeds. What happens to seeds? They grow, right? We take lemons and make lemonade, and this is what we do globally. We make music, we make culture, we have resilience and resistance, we have color, flavor, texture, and cuisine. We are innovators, and wherever I'm going, I am showing that. So those are the two kind of platforms. And so why I'm not traveling that much anymore is I think in my mind, I've been to 50 countries in all 50 states and probably a couple hundred cities. This time is not about doing more. It's about processing all that I have experienced and offer that to the world in multimedia formats. So I said on my Beyond Border Substack, if I literally wrote one article a week, I would have just by the places I've been, I'd have content for the next 2 years. Same thing if I just turned on my camera and did a video, 2 years. And so I feel like I am pregnant with that content and my goal is to get it out. And I'm getting old and my nervous system needs calm and I can't be in transit and transitioning at the same time. So like to take care of myself, my body was like, yeah, girl, we need to be in the same time zone. Okay. Sleep is really, really important and you need to schedule because all of that travel last year really activated my nervous system and it kicked off, a lot of inflammation and autoimmune stuff. And travel is great, but one of the occupational hazards is different foods and bugs, things like that. And I'm not necessarily prone to get sick, but I was seeing that every time I was traveling I was getting sick. And I think that was my body saying, sis, rest. And that's fine. It's an opportunity and it's an invitation to process we have this culture of bigger, better, faster. No, go somewhere and sit down and process and offer and share the wisdom. Some people may never go anywhere. Great. Watch my video and go with me through my eyes, through my reflections. And hopefully you'll either get the gist of that place and be inspired, or maybe you'll want to go there.
I think very often we don't talk about the toll that traveling can take. Like it seems great in the moment, but as you spoke to it, it's not only your body is trying to process different foods, but your routine is also out of whack too, right? So you think of that clock that's happening in your body who has no idea of like, what time are we in, especially when we switch time zones. And I think very often we're on the go, go, go that we don't actually process the experiences, which is what is the point of traveling if we're not then taking in the meaning of said travels, right? As you've been trying to process all of this, how these different places has shaped you as a Black person?
It's so funny. Some of the things that I said, like there's as a person and there's like a Black woman and those things overlap, but I think as a person, I'm interesting. Yeah. I got stories for days. I'll be like, oh, let me tell you about this place, right? So it makes me interesting. I have clients that are nonprofits. We're doing trainings and they're like, Ebony, like, I can't believe you like do all of this stuff. It's opened up a different side of my brain. I'm type A, I'm structured, I'm scheduled, I'm scripted all day. But travel allows me to be free flowing, free spirited. I tell my friends, I can't get a date in the US. And while I'm traveling, I'm like, yeah, let's go out. Right? I'm on Hinge. I'm just having a good old time because I'm actually not trying to think if they are going to be a good partner, spouse, whatever. I'm just trying to be present and have a good time. And so I think it has opened up this creative, free-spirited part of Ebony this is probably why I love it, which is a breath of fresh air. Because I think in my normal life, I'm like holding myself tightly. I'm on a budget. I'm on a schedule. I got this meeting planned, this meeting planned, this meeting planned. You know what I mean? It's like go, go, go. But when I'm traveling, there's literally nothing for me to do but to be here, but to stop, but to look, listen, have an encounter, meet interesting people. And so I think it's made me an open person. I can have a conversation with anybody. I can connect with anybody. And more importantly, I can connect with myself. I can fill up space, but I don't have to fill up space. I know who I am. I know who I want. I know what I need. And this phase of my life is putting that even further into action, which is why I was like, girl, sit down. Your life is telling you something. Right. And I think that when you travel the world and going to different cultures, you got to know who you are. Like I'm Ebony. And of course, I don't necessarily change like a chameleon. Cultures have a context, right? And respecting that particular context. So in my normal life, I do a lot of racial equity and DEI work, right? So I'm talking about difference. I'm talking about communicating across difference. And the fact that I've done that on 5 other continents with people that are very different from me, I know how to connect. And so it's been a value add in my work because I can connect to an audience almost anywhere. I just came back from Seattle and did some work. And then like my storytelling, my like ability to show up and be present and be myself, and my ability to connect is literally money in my pocket from a consulting standpoint, right? I know how to move a room. I know how to take a seemingly unrelated story and relate it to this, right? So case in point, we were talking about strategy and I was working on a like racial equity strategic plan with different organizations. And there's a group there and they were like, oh, we've tried to draft a vision statement. We take it to our leaders and they like don't buy it. And I was like, what is the first thing, if somebody takes a picture of the group and shows you the picture, what is the first thing you're looking for? Yourself. You're like, how do I look? Right? Take that again. So true. And I said, they're butting against it because they don't see themselves in it. So you have to put them in it. Right? And I said, scrap what you did before. Get the words from them. And when you come back, this is not something we created. No, we took your words and we wordsmith them and giving it back to you. That's a different value proposition because I know people and I know that I'm taking pictures all over the world. So I'm like, what you looking? How do I look? And then you're like, no, let's do that again. I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking
right. It'll
crazy.
be 3 out of 4 people look great in that photo,
Right,
but you're like,
and you're
I
like,
look a hot mess.
yeah.
No.
Because I understand people. Everybody's looking for themselves. Right? So I take a very like thing I do while I'm traveling, everybody does, and related it to some aspects of business or organizational development because I see patterns and things like that. I think in the ways that we change me just like in my book. So my book is called Where I'm From, a poetic journey across 5 continents. So the premise is I go to 15 countries, 5 continents. I'm volunteering, backpacking, and creating these Where I'm From poems with people around the world. And it's really about the places I go, the people I meet, the poems that I write with them, but how all of that helps me reckon with my past growing up in poverty. And that really changes my perspective on life, on love, on relationships, and really on leadership, right? Because every place I go to brings up something in me that needs to be reflected on, that needs to be healed, that reminds me of something that I actually need the space to process. Right? So a case in point is I'm in Guatemala. It's the first place I visit on my around the world trip. I have a host dad, right? So his wife is off working, but he's a host dad in the house. He cooks for us. He makes sure we're okay. I go down early in the morning to speak Spanish with him. But it's an anomaly for me because I didn't grow up with a dad in my house. So this present, engaged, caring father figure is like, wow, I never experienced that. But it wasn't until I was in this 2-week adventure in Antigua, Guatemala, that I even knew what I was even missing, right? So there was a beauty that he gave me this beautiful gift, but there was also an ache of like, dang, I didn't even know what I was missing, right? And so those type of things are happening over and over again. Or when I go to Senegal, people are very communal first, very stop by culture, very linger culture. And I'm like, do. No, girls, sit down. Let this conversation linger. Be late to that thing. Or maybe just don't go. Because I have to operate under different contexts. So travel for me either is bringing up something that I need to reflect on in my past, present, or normal life, or inviting me into a different way of being. Slow down, listen, engage, pay attention to your body, pay attention to the surrounding, be more communal, less individualistic. Those kind of things have been really teachers for me.
I'm so excited for this book, and we'll definitely put all the information in the show notes. This is actually a good space for us to shift a little. So one of my favorite parts of the show is to just do a Black travel roundup, where this is going to be the space where you put us on. It's like a curated guide for Black travelers. So some of it is just going to be rapid fire. So the first,
Lord.
whatever comes to mind, don't overthink it. But we'll start off a little slow. So the first thing is for Black travelers who are looking to explore more of the US or solo travel, what are 3 practical tips you would give them?
I think you need to start traveling where you live, right? So take a weekend and say, what is something in my city I have not done and I'm doing, particularly solo travel. So if you haven't spent a night by yourself, literally out on the town eating, how are you going to spend a whole weekend or a week? So start small, have a date with yourself once a week, go to a park, go to a new restaurant, go to a movie, go to some place you've never been, get curious about your surroundings, and then figure out what you like to do when you solo travel. Like, I think solo travelers have a personality. So you're like, okay, me, I like to eat, I like to drink, and I like to go on food tours. So do that. Like, I think if you say, okay, well, maybe for 2 or 3 months, I'm going to do dates with myself just around town at interesting places. Then go maybe 2 hours away, right? An overnight trip somewhere, right? Start there. Then maybe go to a place that's in another state that you find it. It could be, I always do I want to eat there? Is there some museum or history or some natural feature that I want to go to in another state that's close that you haven't been? Of like, oh, I haven't been wine tasting in such and such, or I haven't been to the Salamander in DC, or, I'm from Long Island. We hadn't been to the Hamptons. So we went on a 2-hour trip down the road and we went to the Hamptons, right? And so I think that, like, take your sense of adventure, start small, and then go out. And that will open you up to, so when you get to the bigger places in more time, you already know what you like to do. You can ground your time in, I like to do these 3 things, right? This is how I travel in places, around the country and around the world.
I love that, because the educator in me is like, you have to scaffold the experience. We can't just dive into the deep end, because I think sometimes that's where the disappointment happens, where I'm going to take this trip literally halfway across the world.
And
but
you ain't gone out to eat by yourself. Never.
And then you're crying and you're just feeling all the emotions on this trip. It's almost like a way of regulating your nervous system to get used to being able to travel, especially by yourself.
I would say too, and this is part of like one of my travel courses, is really set the intention. There are different types of trips I go on. There are trips where I want adventure. There are trips where I want history and culture. And there are trips when I want to relax. Know why you're going, because that will shape your itinerary. If you're going to relax, you don't really you're like, oh, this is what it means for me to relax. That's what my itinerary looks like. Or I want to put on my shoes and walk and beat the pavement and eat and do cultural things. That's a very different. Or I want to go to museums and do the history, or merge. But I think if you don't know your intention, then your itinerary can't be out of that. And then I think that's where disappointment comes in. And you're just like, oh, I really want to relax, but I'm out here 12 hours a day walking the streets.
Yeah, this reminds me of someone saying there's a difference between a trip and a vacation, and knowing when you need each of those is really important on how you plan that itinerary.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get into the rapid fire. So this is going to be your curated picks across the US. So first thing that comes to mind, don't overthink it. So first one, best US city for Black food.
New Orleans.
Best city for Black history.
Richmond might be a good contender there.
Okay. Most underrated city for Black travelers.
Richmond too.
Most overrated city for Black travelers.
Oh, I really like LA, but I think it's a lot for me. So I would say that's overrated.
All right. A place that surprised you.
All of the middle states.
Mm.
Because I was like, I just got to go check the boxes. So the Des Moines, the Sioux Falls, the Idaho Falls, those were some of the gyms that I really enjoyed.
A place where you felt on guard or uncomfortable.
I can't really think of a place.
That's fair.
Oh, actually, we was in Southwest Virginia and we did like Nat Turner's recreated his steps. It was cotton fields, Confederate flags. It was just a lot going on.
A place you would return to again and again.
New Orleans.
A
I like
one
New
and done destination. Now, on the flip
Oh,
side.
I don't need to go back to. Oh, so this is still because it's a U.S. St. Croix is a U.S. territory.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, girl, their food was not fooding. Beautiful, but I gotta have good food, and everything I had there was trash.
And then one place every Black traveler should visit.
Charleston.
If this is inspiring your next trip, I can help make your planning simple. I offer done with you consultations, done for you custom travel itinerary services, and ready to book detailed itineraries. All services are based on my expertise and personal experience of visiting over 40 states and 35 countries. Visit frannythetraveler.com to learn more. All right. So before we close, I always like to leave some space for reflection. So finish this sentence. Unlocking Black journeys means.
I think it means connecting to the Black history, food, and culture of every place you go to, and or the present day Black community in that thing. So maybe they don't have a huge Black history, but there may be a growing, budding Black community there. And so I am always looking for Black in wherever I'm going to go. Right. And Black women be everywhere. So find a Black woman, a Black woman group in the place. There surely is one. And sisters will lead you on the right path.
Amen to that. And so looking forward, what is next for you? So this is a great moment. You can plug in when we can expect your book. Where can we find it?
Yeah. So what's next? So September 8th of 2026, Where I'm From, A Poetic Journey Across 5 Continents comes out. It's on She Writes Press, distributed by Simon & Schuster. You can go to my website, ebonywalden.com, and you will find the book. You can pre-order it right now. Season 2 of Black Beyond Borders will be out this fall as well, which you will go with me on a month-long journey throughout Colombia. That will be out this fall. You can check out season 1 on blackbeyondborders.com. You can get the background of the series, as well as season 2 will be there soon. You can also support the series. You can go to my Substack, which is Ebony Walden, and you can read weekly or roughly bi-weekly my reflections on travel and transformation. So that's like international travel, but it's also like me traveling through life and learning the lessons of growing, maturing, and aging. You can catch me on YouTube. It's Ebony.Around the World. The show is on there. My shorts are on there. You can catch me in the same place at TikTok. So I will be spending the next year promoting my book. I am also putting together a speaking tour where I will go around sharing the lessons of traveling the African diaspora and what does it mean to belong around the world, as well as sharing some of the lessons and wisdoms from my around the world trip. So you can find all of that and everything on ebonywalden.com. So if you want to bring me to your community, you want to screen Black Beyond Borders, you want to be in conversation with me around my book, you want to bring me to your leadership or women's retreat and say, what have you learned from traveling to all of these places that will help us in life, love, leadership, and entrepreneurship? Bring me out.
Love that. And we'll include all of that information in the show notes. So thank you so much, Ebony, for this conversation, for being
Absolutely.
here and unlocking your Black journey with us. This was such a powerful conversation. And to everyone listening, your journey matters. The places you go, the spaces you navigate, and the stories you carry all deserve to be seen and honored. So until next time, keep unlocking your Black journey.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this episode, show some love. Like, comment, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Unlock Black Journeys, the podcast. Want even more? Make sure you head to frannythetraveler.com. That's where you'll find more episodes, Black-owned travel guides, and personal reflections of traveling while Black you won't find anywhere else. And don't forget to check out my book, Support Black Period. It's your go-to guide to discovering Black-owned businesses across all 50 states.